So whether you're building your next ultra budget build for a flip or a high-end gaming PC or workstation, there is one thing you're going to need, and that is a copy of Windows 10 Pro. So you head on over to Microsoft to grab a single end user license, and you find that Microsoft is charging, yeah, way too much. But luckily for you guys, I have the perfect solution thanks to my friends over at CDKdeals.com. With my product code TECH215, you can get yourself a single end user license for Windows 10 Pro for as little as 16 bucks. 16 bucks! And also in this video, I'll be showing you guys how to create a Windows 10 boot disk using Microsoft's media creation tool, and also how to upgrade or install a fresh copy of Windows 10. Welcome back to Tech215. I'm your host Nick, and in today's video, I'm going to walk you guys through how to create a Windows 10 boot disk, as well as how to install Windows 10, whether you're installing a fresh copy or simply upgrading from 7 or 8.1. And I'm going to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, CDKdeals.com, where you can get a copy of Windows 10 Pro with my coupon code Tech215 for around 16 bucks. It's a totally great deal. And you also need a USB stick with at least 8 gigabytes of free storage. Just a tip, guys, if you have any files on that drive, back it up, because the media creation tool will format it to a bootable disk and you will lose all that data. So let's get into the process. So the first thing you're going to do is open up your browser, and I want you guys to search Windows 10 Media Creation Tool. By doing that, it will bring up the links to get you to Microsoft's site. I want you guys to select the second link that says Create Installation Media for Windows. We are then going to select Windows 10. You can make a disk for 7, 8.1, or 10, but obviously we're going to select 10 here. Scroll down a little bit and do Download Tool Now. This will download directly to your Downloads folder, and then we're going to open up the tool. Just click Accept. And we're not going to upgrade the PC. If this is the PC that you want to use, obviously you can upgrade the PC now, but we want to create an installation media USB flash drive. We're going to select our language, our architecture, and our edition. For our purposes today, we're doing English, Windows 10, and 64-bit. We're not creating an ISO in this situation. We are creating a USB flash drive, so you want to click USB flash drive. It's going to load up, so I'm going to speed this up, but that is pretty much it, guys. At the very end, it will say this disk is now ready to use, and there you go. You have a Windows 10 boot disk. All right, so now that we have our Windows 10 boot disk all set up, there's a couple things you do need to remember. So we want to go into our BIOS and change our boot order, and simply what we're doing is we're telling the computer when it boots up to boot to the USB thumb drive. We don't want to boot to our DVD or CD-ROM unless that's the boot drive you're using, and we don't want to boot to our hard drive. We want to boot to the USB thumbstick. This will enable us to copy the files from the USB thumbstick over to the hard drive that we're installing Windows on, and we'll be able to set it up. So let's get into that, and then let's do a fresh install of Windows 10. So the first thing we need to do in order to install Windows 10 is change the boot order in our BIOS. For most machines, entering the BIOS can be done by hitting the delete button while booting, whether it's HP, Dell, Lenovo, or name brand boards like Gigabyte, MSI. We'll use my ASRock board as an example, and once I'm in the BIOS, I'm going to head over to the boot option, and as you guys can see, a list of all the drives in our computer will show up. We want to make our Windows 10 USB stick priority number 1, and then press F10 to save our changes. Then we'll reboot our machine. We will then boot from the Windows 10 boot disk, and upon booting, we'll see the Windows setup screen, which lets us select our language, time and currency format, and also the keyboard and input method. I speak English and live in the US, so I will select that and click Next, then Install Now. So now we can put our brand new single end user license that we got from CDKdeals.com here, but I like to do this once we're in Windows, so I'm going to click I don't have a product key. At the next Windows setup screen, we're going to select what version of Windows 10 we want to install, and I'm selecting Windows 10 Pro, then clicking Next. We'll then check the Accept the License Terms checkbox to the far left and click Next. Now, the next screen is very important. If you wish to just copy over the current version of Windows 10, whether it's 7, 8.1, or 10, and keep all your files, you'll want to just click on the first option, Upgrade, Install Windows, and Keep Files, Settings, and Applications. But we want to install a fresh copy of Windows 10 and actually format our C drive. So we'll select Custom, Install Windows Only, Advanced, and this gives us a lot more options to customize how we want Windows 10 to install. On this screen, you'll have the ability to select what drive you wish to install Windows 10 on, clean up some partitions, whether we created the partitions ourselves or whether they were created from the last install of Windows. As you can see, Windows creates 4 partitions after a clean install: EFI, Microsoft Recovery, and Windows partitions, along with the biggest block left, which is where we're going to install Windows 10. On this screen, you'll have the ability to select what drive you wish to install Windows 10 on, clean up some partitions, whether we created the partitions ourselves or whether they were created from the last install of Windows. And as you can see, I only have 2 physical drives listed. I have a 250 gigabyte SSD, which is going to be our main Windows 10 OS drive, and a 2 terabyte hard drive. I left the Microsoft Recovery partition unformatted to show you guys what actually happens after we install Windows. We'll leave this partition and Windows will just create a duplicate and override the current MSR reserved partition. So we'll select the biggest chunk left of our SSD and click Next. Windows will begin copying all the necessary files from the USB drive to our C drive. This should take about 5 to 15 minutes depending on the speed of our USB flash drive, the USB ports itself, and the speed of the drive you're installing Windows to. Alright, I'm going to actually speed this up a little bit so we can get to the next section. Now, your computer will reboot and start asking some questions, and the first question it'll ask is what region you live in. Again, I live in the United States and want to use a US keyboard. Again, to avoid having to log into a Microsoft account, I'm going to click I don't have internet. And again, we're going to continue with limited setup. We can always sign into a Microsoft account and enable these features when we boot to our desktop. Next, we're going to create a name for our PC, create and confirm a password, then answer 3 security questions in case we get locked out. I always just make sure the answers are password, but you guys can set this up however you want. Next, Microsoft will ask us to choose our privacy settings for our device, and as always, I'm going to turn off all these features, as to me they're a waste of time, and if you want, you can always turn them back on when you boot to your desktop. And last but not least, Microsoft will ask us if we want to allow Cortana, our wonderful digital assistant, to help us get things done, but as you guys can guess, I'm just going to click Not Now. If I want Cortana's help, I'll just re-enable her once I'm booted into Windows, and just a couple more seconds, and voila, finally at our desktop. Alright guys, that's pretty much it. We showed you how to create a Windows 10 boot disk using Microsoft's media creation tool, as well as how to install Windows 10. But there's one thing we have yet to do, and that is to activate Windows 10. Just log into cdkdeals.com at the top right where your username is, and that will take you to the user center. On the left hand side, all your purchases will be in the purchase center. Just click on View, Keys, Copy, and then click the Start button and type Activation, then click Activation Settings, and in here is where you'll be able to change your key. Just paste it in, click Next, and after that, you will have a fully activated version of Windows 10 Pro. But that's all the time we have for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up. It would mean a lot to me, and it would also let YouTube know that you're enjoying my content. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and ring the bell so you get notified the second I release a new video. And guys, also be sure to check out my ultra budget builds playlist, where we started with a donated computer and we put some upgrades into it and flipped it, and each time the builds get better and better. We're going on episode 4, and that should be out relatively soon. Follow me on Instagram at tech_215_ for the latest hardware news and updates to the channel. And finally, I want to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, cdkdeals.com. Head on over there and get Windows 10 Pro for just 16 bucks with my product code tech215. And they also have a ton of other great software like Microsoft Office and a ton of super cheap game codes. So again, cdkdeals.com. I should be back in about a week with more tech content. Peace!